dwarves! It is I, Tantus Van Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on the Pathfinder role-playing game system. I've been going over the various races you can play in Pathfinder. Now, not your standard races, mind you, but the various unusual races that you can play. Not your humans, elves, dwarves, everything else. So today for you, I have the Duergar. So the Duergar are a race which detests the light itself. They are a subterranean race from deep, deep underground. They detest all other races, all things under the light, but they especially detest their cousins, the dwarves. Once the dwarves and Duergar were the same race, but the dwarves were given an opportunity to leave the deep subterraneans where they had their cities and head for the surface. The Duergar are the descendants of those that stayed behind in these deep cities. Under the constant bombardment of enemies from the various other Darkland areas, deep underground, they eventually gave in to an evil god of dwarves and became servants of him. This instilled them with their magic abilities, but also made them into the creatures they are now. Gray-skinned, bald except for a beard which they do have. Cold, lightless eyes. They live for battle and for slaughter. Though they always are looking to take captives in order to become slaves. They love taking slaves of other races. Except for their surface cousins. Their surface cousins will be given no quarter whatsoever. Their heads will be removed. Life is a toil that only results in death. Now, words like vile and evil and malicious are very good words for a Duergar. Cruel even. They are still creatures of honor, and will not break their word when said. Now let's talk about the racial traits of Duergar. Duergar gain constitution and wisdom, but lose a large chunk of charisma. They're very uncharismatic. They have a base speed similar to that of dwarves, and are also, like them, not encumbered by wearing armor. It doesn't slow them down. They have greater immunities than a normal dwarf would have. They're immune to paralysis and poisons along with phantasms, with some resistances to magic. They are stable, like all dwarves are, but they also then gain some of the magic gifts of that dark deity. They can use enlarge person once per day and invisibility once per day. These are the representations of that gifts the dark god gave them when they came to, well, find his protection deep underground in the Darklands. They have a superior dark vision, which grants them the ability to see 120 feet, but they're sensitive to light. In bright light, it dazzles them. Ugh! Now, for alternate racial traits, you'll find that sometimes their hatred is deep within their blood. What this means is they get some bonuses against creatures of the dwarven and elven subtypes. Particularly, this is for surface dwarves, which they hate a lot, and for drow, which they're constantly competing with. Some of them are adapted a little bit towards the surface. This means their dark vision isn't as great, but they aren't dazzled by the surface. Still want to be up there, but they're able to come up there just to raid and take some slaves and then go back down. Some are able to overcome the spell resistance of the enemies around them. They basically give up some of their other magical abilities to pierce it, to use the other magic they might learn from a class to pierce the resistances of those around them. Some of them get alternate dwarf traits. Basically, you can look to certain dwarf traits and replace it. They're a little closer to the dwarves. Some are a little charming when it comes to their spell-like abilities. Can use charm person instead of some of the others. Now, for favorite class option, there are some interesting ones, but the one I want to mention in particular is the one if you're a cleric. You get, every level, you get plus 1/2 to your checks making magic items. They're very good at making magic items. I'm not diving into magic item creation now, but suffice it to say, the better a check you have, the better the magic item is, and you can start ignoring components. That's what having a higher magic item crafting check means to you. So, getting a bonus here of up to plus 10 might mean that they could, unlike some other spellcaster, ignore not having 2 spells. That might mean as if they're crafting potions and they're a wizard, they could totally make a cure potion, because they can ignore some certain aspects of it. it's a little more difficult than that, than just, oh, I want to do it, but this is a step in the right direction. Now, the racial archetype I want to mention today is for a Duergar monk, the Grey Discipline. The Grey Discipline effectively mixes monks' abilities with their own natural abilities. This means they get things that their enlarged person is mixed with their ability to fight along with their invisibility. They eventually get Earth Glide, which is a really great ability. It's better than Burrow. You don't have to worry about any kind of tunnels and stuff. You just glide through the earth, and you even trap people in earth. So it's very interesting abilities for a Duergar monk. The two racial feats, one gives you more speed when you're enlarged, and the other gives you concealment after your invisibility ends. So my invisibility ends, I get concealment. Now, there is an alternate build of a Duergar that you can take a look at, a Duergar Tyrant. They get some changes in the abilities they have. They're better at being like a kineticist or a psychic, so they're effectively something you'd look into maybe if you're using one of those. This is one, because it's a little bit more powerful than your average Duergar, that you might not want to have allowed if you're a game master, GM. But if you as a player are building a kind of psychic kineticist type character, maybe you would want to look into it and talk to your GM about playing it. There is the option out there, but Duergar Tyrant, I'd recommend looking at it at least then. Anyway, that's it for today. So, I introduced you to the Duergar. The Duergar are an interesting race, as they are technically the forefathers of dwarves as we know them, in a way. These are the descendants of the dwarves that stayed deep underground. Think about that. Dwarves were deep underground, some of them stayed behind and became Duergar. The rest, under the mountains close to the surface, became the dwarves we know. So they have this split. And the darkness that they gave into, well, it makes them terrible, terrible individuals. More lawful evil than anything. And they'll probably enslave you if they get a hold of you, unless you're a dwarf. But they're an interesting race in that way. And that does mean that there's possibilities to play them more than just trying to be the deviant in another alignment. Playing lawful evil is the easiest alignment in the evil genre spectra with playing with other players. You are of an order. If you're more lawful than you're evil, it makes it very easy to. And it just makes it a little easier to play with other characters. And that's one of those things that maybe you want to play a lawful evil character. Of course, maybe again. Maybe you want to be deviant Duergar. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. If you have any interesting Duergar characters that you've actually played yourself, or you know of a Duergar NPC that was a member of your party, or you used in a game if you're a GM, let me know in the comments below. Love to hear your stories. Remember, check out my links, my Twitter, Discord, Twitch, Patreon. Great ways to get in contact with me, see my other content, and show me great support for some great rewards. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.